What is going on, everybody? I think we've got 850 of you here today. We're super excited to have you for the amazing afternoon of AI Awesomeness. I want to shout out my team who continues to deliver these alliterative pieces of vernacular. We do have a new sponsor today. For those of you who don't know, we are built on Bubble, and so we're super excited to announce our partnership with them. Bubble is a software platform that enables anyone to build and launch fully functional applications without writing code. It's not just for MVPs, as indicated by the fact that you're all able to log on and this works seamlessly. Learn more about building on Bubble by clicking the link on the screen. They are hosting their second virtual and in-person conference, BubbleCon, in New York on October 1st and 2nd. We do have some promo codes for you. Use BBC NYSE for $25 off your in-person ticket, also by clicking on the screen. We've got a great lineup today. We're super thankful to the panelists and the startups that have donated their time and hopped on. If it is your first time here, we are the best platform for founders to pitch their startup, connect with investors, and rapidly close their round. We run these events every month, so if you want to get involved in the next one, check out the link below. Don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. My email is matt@kernel. Now it's time for the main event. I'd love to welcome back our host, Haley from the Hustle Fund.
Hey, Matt. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited for our AI Awesome afternoon. Great alliteration happening. Great work from the team. Hi, everyone. I'm Haley. I'll be the host today. I'm an investor at Hustle Fund, as Matt mentioned. Thanks for the great intro. We'll let you get back behind the scenes. So as our viewers come in, we can do some quick intros with our panelists. So first up, we're so lucky to be joined again by Vivek Sodera, founder of Superhuman. Welcome, Vivek. Would love an intro.
Yes. Hi, Haley. Good to see you again. Vivek, founder a few times over. My most recent company was an email startup called Superhuman. I am now on the venture side. I started my own fund called Supercharge VC, which is investing in pre-seed companies in the domain of enterprise AI, productivity, and developer tools.
We love it. And thank you for the help getting to inbox zero. It's so elusive. Vivek, you're hosting, I hear, an AI dinner tonight.
That's right.
I'd be curious, what made companies stand out for you to get an invite to that dinner?
You mean what was the criteria to?
Yeah.
It was a combination of some notable companies. So we have Kunjan from Imbue, for example. She's going to be there. There are folks that I didn't know, so I just reached out to some people, and then I got a lot of inbound as well. So it's kind of just juggling some more mid to late stage AI companies and some very early stage AI companies. I also have a couple portfolio company founders.
Nice. We'll have fun later, and so excited to hear from you later on in this event. Hopefully there will not actually be tears, as you mentioned in an earlier social post. Next up, we're going to welcome Allison Pickens, solo GP and investor at the New Normal Fund. Welcome, Allison. Would love an intro from you.
Hi, great to be here. Thanks, Haley. So I used to be COO at Gainsight, which is a customer success SaaS company. Scaled it from 1 million to 85 million in ARR. I now run a fund of which I'm the sole GP. I've been investing full time for the last 4 years in AI applications, both horizontal and vertical, and AI infra companies like Gamma, EvenUp, Jasper, Norm AI, XBuild, Tenor, and another number of other great companies that are looking to transform the real world.
Amazing. And Allison, saw an interview with one of the founders of Gamma on your Substack, and you've interviewed some amazing people in AI across ops and customer success and other areas. Are there any things that get you really excited about AI companies today? What does it take to kind of stand out?
I get really excited about companies that have real evidence of strong demand in their target customers. There's so much hype in the ecosystem right now. A lot of promises, not always a lot of ROI fully delivered. I think if you're fulfilling the promise of generative AI, then you are able to achieve really high contract sizes because you're cutting out cost and or you're generating really meaningful revenue for your customers. So revenue traction or customer interest is something that I look at closely.
Okay, cool. So we'll keep an eye out for customer interest in the decks that we see from the founders we have today. Thanks for joining us, Allison. Next up, we have Darian Shirazi, managing partner of Gradient Ventures. Welcome, Darian. Would love an intro.
Hi, how is everybody? I guess they can't reply to me. But in any case, I'm Darian. I've been at Gradient for about 5.5 years, which is a seed Series A fund focused on AI software. We have invested in over 200 companies across 500 plus founders. Our biggest investments are Outcomes and our Lambda Labs, where we led the seed, Streamlit, where we led the seed, as well as Mural, where we did the Series A. We've also invested in a lot of really interesting dev tools and AI companies, and we've only been at it for about 7 years. So it's been really a fantastic ride. I'm probably a non-traditional VC background. I was a founder like Vivek, and started my own company in the predictive marketing space. We grew the business to about 20 million in ARR across enterprise customers and sold it. And then prior to that was a software engineer at Facebook when they were very small, and I worked on a lot of other projects, helped start Udemy, for early investor there, early investor in Palantir, Carbon Health, lots of different companies. I just like building things, and I find that working with founders really is what makes me happy. So excited to hear the pitches today and see what everyone's building.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Darian. Gradient is all AI all the time. You've invested in so many interesting companies. Could you share either what got you to yes on a recent investment or any specific verticals or workflows you're focused on currently?
Yeah, we're focused on low gross margin markets where AI and agent enabled companies can replace those markets. And so good examples of this are, we just invested in a company that's using AI agents for penetration testing for security vulnerability. So instead of having people that are aiming at, let's say, trying to get into your website or trying to hack it, you can use AI agents to emulate the penetration testing process. We've also invested in a company recently that helps you migrate from one software solution to another. So let's say you're moving from Salesforce to HubSpot. It'll write the code to do the data migration, as well as generate the training plan for your sales reps to learn how to use HubSpot instead of Salesforce. And it'll do all of the remediation and make sure the migration goes well. So there's a lot of interesting things that are happening, replacing consulting, replacing any sort of human-based process with a AI agent-enabled platform. And that's what we're really looking for. And we think that that's going to be disruptive across many different verticals that have never seen software before.
Oh, amazing. And hopefully we'll hear from some of those vertical builders today. Thank you. And last but not least, our fourth panelist is Nick Candito, co-founder and managing partner of ACOF, Angel Collective Opportunity Fund. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Haley. And good to see all of you. Thanks for having me. So my background is a lot of time as a career founder and early stage operator. So did 2 companies in the Boston area. First company in the Bay Area was called Relate IQ that we sold to Salesforce in 2014. And then I became the founder and CEO of a company that we sold to Box in 2018. I actually met Darian and Allison through that, and now currently based in Austin, where I do a lot of angel investing. And Angel Collective is an opportunity fund that's meant to support emerging managers and venture capital. So do a lot of investing in B2B, and then cover different themes, things like AI, climate defense through the opportunity fund. So really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Nick. And I think you've made over 200 investments to date. You were early into companies like Jasper and Writer before ChatGPT even launched. What do you look for in the founders that you back?
So with the personal angel investing, I think a lot of it happens to be folks that I've worked with in the past. I think that's the easiest way to get really excited about teaming up with someone. The idea might change, and the markets could evolve very quickly. But if you worked with someone and you thought they were really talented, the idea of supporting them into their next thing is how it got started, especially after Relate IQ sold. And there were, I think, 15 companies or so that have come out of there now. And otherwise, it's kind of a lot of time, doing things kind of like Vivek mentioned with the AI dinner, staying really active with founders, hearing what the smartest people are working on, and just trying to do a good job of meeting people where they're at if they're thinking about their next big idea.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. And I'm so excited that all of our VC panelists are operators as well. So excited for the questions to come for the founders. Before we jump into pitches, let's cover ground rules really quickly. So we're going to have 4 different startups, each give their own 4-minute pitch. During that pitch, you can connect, and invest using the buttons below, or express interest in investing at the bottom of the screen. Click on the link to the pitch details to see their pitch deck, metrics, and more information. And then after the founder has finished their pitch, we'll call on judges to give their take, their questions for each of the founders. So quick recap, if a founder's pitch catches your eye, make sure to get involved using the buttons below. And I know that's enough of me, but just last thing, we need people to be accredited to mingle with the founders. So we're here to facilitate intros, not transactions. This is not financial advice. You know the spiel. We're excited to have you here. Let's move on to the pitches. We'll start with Billy, the founder of Squeeze, and we'll bring him up to the stage.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Billy. We're so happy to have you. Would love to kick off with I can give a quick intro perhaps, and then move out of the way so you can get started. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So after studying economics at Harvard while running varsity cross country, Billy worked in investment banking, venture capital, and led finance and strategy for GlowFox all the way to an acquisition before founding Squeeze. Squeeze centralizes data from various talent tools to enable talent teams to make data-driven decisions needed to improve hiring, retention, and employee satisfaction. Billy, we'll let you take it away.
Nice. Well, appreciate that, Haley. And yeah, great. So I'm Billy Gaudreau, CEO of Squeeze. And thanks so much to Colonel and the panelists for hosting us. So we are creating a world where everyone loves where they work. And we're enabling that with an AI-powered talent intelligence software platform that's built for enterprise. And the issue, if you can move the slide here, the issue is that attracting, retaining, and keeping employees happy and productive is incredibly expensive and inefficient. And since COVID, people actually care about the company they're working at. And there's a disconnect in how companies are presenting themselves and what the employee experience is actually like in reality. And enterprises are losing billions of dollars because they're spending so much money attracting the wrong people who ultimately aren't productive and quit. And the challenge here is that modern talent strategy is incredibly complex. So what happened, because of the Great Resignation, enterprises onboarded a ton of point solutions. And because of this, there's siloed talent data that's stored all over the place. For example, our typical power user will spend days every month logging into each of these tools, manually pulling out stats into Google spreadsheets that they convert into Google Slides that they convert into their own talent strategy. And this is a big deal, and it matters because talent teams don't understand what's going on. They aren't data scientists, so they can't understand employee sentiment. So they're presenting themselves inauthentically, and they ultimately can't measure the effectiveness of their talent brand strategy. So Squeeze connects to all your different talent data sources, provides a single pane of glass view. And with the data, we process it with proprietary algorithms and AI to provide purpose-built sentiment and emotive analysis, talent stack analytics, and AI-driven summaries, implications, and strategic recommendations. This all enables employer brand and talent acquisition leaders with the tools to both understand their talent strategy and then track the impact of it. And this impact can be 1.2 million a year in acquisition cost, and then 1.4 savings a year in retention costs, just for your average mid-market company. And no one can do this yet because no one has all of the data. So we compete against status quo and manual spreadsheets. Our sort of periphery competition are the point solutions, but the point solutions only own a part of the talent funnel. So Squeeze differentiates by offering the full stack from social engagement all the way through retention, which is super important because you can only pull out insights, sentiment, and powerful strategy if you have access to all the data. And there's a massive market opportunity here. All businesses need to attract and retain talent, and all businesses need to differentiate beyond remuneration. Our ICP is the head of employer brand and talent acquisition. We serve mid-market and enterprise, and we're vertical agnostic. See a TAM that's well over $15 billion, even if you could assume a pretty conservative ACV. And our current go-to-market strategy has been all LinkedIn cold outbound. Our product launched in late July, and then since then we've signed Pfizer and Portco, Darian, Udemy in August, and have a number of other similar customers set to close shortly. And then in the medium long term, we'll execute a classic SaaS outbound model with a team of SDRs and AEs. And we've got a team that's uniquely qualified to do it. So we pride ourselves on being scrappy, hardworking, and bring a ton of different skill sets to the table. Billy, CEO, I was executive team at a Series B startup. Before that, was a growth equity investor. Invested over $180 million into the sectors that we play in. So HR tech, marketing tech, and sales tech. And then my co-founder, James Andres, he's like a Swiss Army knife. He's a sales engineer and AI solutions consultant by trade. So brings a super technical background, as well as being able to engage with customers on the sales end. And then Anthony Cooper, candidly, super lucky to have him on board. He's a seasoned engineering leader. He's been CTO at a number of venture-backed startups like ClearScore. His last startup, Content Cal, was acquired by Adobe. So just a quick recap. Stage is set. We have a massive market opportunity, value prop that's resonating incredibly well with customers, opportunities for product expansion, and a team that can get it done. We're an antler-backed company from the spring 24 cohort. We're currently accepting angel checks, and we plan to raise a financing round this fall.
Awesome job, Billy. Thank you so much. We'll bring our panelists up, and just a quick reminder to use the buttons below to connect with Billy and learn more. Let's kick it off with Vivek. What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Billy, for that pitch. How do you know this isn't a solution in search of a problem?
A solution in search of a problem. Good question. So I'd say that folks are already doing this at the moment. It's just taking an incredible amount of time, resources, and inefficiency that gets lost. In addition to that, they're also hiring agencies. So these teams are kind of small, 5-person teams-ish, depending on the organization. And they outsource a lot of this work to agencies, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to have them help them with it in terms of proof point.
So if you were to stack rank employer branding, manual tasks, and with respect to employee attrition, how does that stack rank versus, say, like one's manager, which is like has been a lot of research done and studies done to show that an employee's manager is like the biggest reason why a company has attrition, right? And so how does employer branding and what Squeeze is trying to address kind of factor in there?
So great point. Management and organization is, so we call these employer brand attribute categories. We've got 12 of them: balance and well-being, remuneration, D&I, job satisfaction, and then management and organization. One of the most important factors when you think about your employer brand and what it's like to work at a company, we're based on all of the data, whether that's external review sites, LinkedIn, or internal feedback, whether that's interviews or pulse surveys. We're able to suck all of that in and tell you where you're doing well or where you're doing poorly. At scale, it's super important that these companies understand what's going on. And if there's a problem, then they need to be able to fix it. And if not, they need to be able to highlight it to potential candidates.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Allison.
Great. Thanks so much, Billy. You did a great job. You know, the general value prop of we're going to unify data across many sources, I found has been a common one over the past decade across many different, end customers, across functions, across verticals. Just curious to know, like, why you think now is like the crucial time to be starting this company. Why wasn't it founded 10 years ago? Why shouldn't it be founded, say, 5 years from now? Why is now the right time?
Great question. I'd say there's two ways to look at it. One is there's kind of been this explosion of point solutions. So if you look at CRMs for talent, that category has exploded. Social media right now for talent is like the top priority for any talent organization. They're getting their brand out to LinkedIn, Facebook and other socials. They're just figuring out how to do that and how to track it. And then part 3 is that so much of this data is qualitative. And before, I'm going to call it 16, 18 months ago, for AI, you just weren't able to understand vast amount of qualitative data. And now the work that agencies used to do by going through all of that qualitative data by hand, which takes months, can do in a matter of minutes.
Great. Do you mind me asking can I ask one follow-up question, Haley?
Go for it.
Billy, how do you feel about selling into HR right now?
It's a good question. So I was a growth equity investor as well. We always had that question. I think there are HR budgets, and I think especially since COVID and remote work and people trying to figure out a hybrid model, they need a data tool to be able to understand this stuff. So we in terms of budget conversations, we haven't run into saying we'd love to have this, but the budget isn't there. It's purely a matter of demonstrating the tool's usage.
Thank you, Billy and Allison. Darian.
Yeah, so what are the sources of data that you are crawling, and where are you getting your data from?
So 2 sources. One is, or 2 kind of categories to think about it. One is internal data. So social, LinkedIn, your career site, so Google Analytics, your CRM. So think, a Beamery or Afold, and then your ATS. So Greenhouse, Workday, Taleo.
And you've built integrations into all those?
Into a majority of them, yes. And then externally, think anywhere where there might be employee feedback online.
Okay. And then you're crawling all of that, and how are you unifying it? What are you using to unify it?
So we've got a bunch of different systems that we use to kind of organize it and orchestrate the data. We've got so we kind of the core capabilities, sorting that into these employer brand attribute categories that I talked about. And then from there, we run a bunch of different analysis on the back end.
Got it. And when you are using any of the new LLMs to basically interpret it or to unify that data, or is it still pretty much just trying to get everything around the company entity and then building your own analytics around it?
No, of course we use a number of the LLMs. I think that the beauty of that is that the cost of those, in my opinion, is going to continue to go down, and the accuracy and power of them is just going to keep getting better. So it's only good news for us as they continue to progress.
Cool.
Thank you, Darian. Nick.
Yeah, thanks again, Billy. Really interesting problem space, and excited to hear all the progress that you made. My question would be around the fact that you now have some customers and some really big logos there. So what did you learn kind of around price point, how valuable this is for your customers? How do you think about the evaluation of the product and that it can start for free? And related to Allison's point, when you're selling into HR, how have you educated them on the idea that this is a new budget versus you replacing something that maybe they're already doing?
Yeah, it's a great question on budget. So I think about it probably a couple of different ways. One, the talent stack and budgets here have kind of exploded over the last couple of years. These folks are spending outrageous amounts just on LinkedIn alone, and then you add all the CRM and ATS and career site and job boards, and kind of the list goes on. Our value proposition in terms of pricing is we optimize all of this existing spend that you already have. You've got teams that are trying to do it, but they're doing it manually. If in terms of pricing, at the moment we're in the 5 figures. Given who we're selling to, anywhere from mid-market to Fortune 100. We'll be moving to six figures, hopefully shortly.
Amazing. Thank you, panelists, for all the questions. Thank you, Billy, for getting through it. From the other side of the table, we'll have to debrief on that at some point. We're going to move on to our next founder. We're going to bring up Dimitri to the stage, the CEO and founder of Work Done. Dimitri, welcome. Just quickly on him, he has a master's in physics, an MBA in international business from Georgetown, led EY's global innovation team, and participated in YC in winter 2020. So very excited to see what innovation he's bringing to this space. Work Done lets non-technical managers or consultants deploy and control many automation agents that work with each other and human employees, counterposition to the major incumbents in the field. So I'll let you do your thing, Dimitri. Good luck. Have fun.
Thank you, Haley. Hi, everyone. My company Work Done does the high accuracy automation agents for the enterprise. And our team has spent more than a decade each individually in enterprise automation space, first as successful consultants selling robotic process automation, then as the founders SaaS company called Electronic that does RPA for SMBs, which we made profitable at 5 million ARR after YC, carried it through the war and other challenges. Our CTO, Vincent, is AI leader who built many great things at DocuSign, and he's the visionary for the multi-agent automation. So the problem is very broad from one side, but very clear and obvious for the business managers. Every manager in business function like IT support, HR, finance, sales, and others needs to deliver, needs to perform, always with limited resources, always or sometimes asked to cut costs. And Gen AI is very promising for automation. There are more than 400 companies that do AI automation agents, and around 20 they do multi-agent automation. But all these solutions do not perform on enterprise. They do have compounding failure issues. So in 40% of cases, things just do not work. Our platform is for non-technical user to create automation agents and then use our proprietary framework of LLM voting behavior to achieve high accuracy and consistency in execution of automation tasks. Managers, our major users, can use this to automate complex cases that involve many people, many agents on an ongoing basis. Please take a look at our demo in the materials. Our goal is to amplify, not to replace human worker. So the managers, they use Work Done interface, and their employees and AI agents, they use existing automation software. We work with many different LLMs under the hood, and that's the way we achieve high performance. So how does it look? How it works today? That's what we offer for POC to the major enterprises in the States, and we have a good pipeline. You connect us to the systems, we tell you, we review all the data, we tell you what's going on with performance of each individual human agents. In our first domain, we go into customer support, internal support, what can be done better, and we automatically produce performance improvement recommendations that managers can approve and send to their employees on each call, on each ticket for every week, every month. No limits there. Where are we heading to? We already working on enabling automated actions in the system, in the support and success systems in the first place. That's where we have a lot of experience personally. We will let Work Done build workflows for automation. For instance, triage of the ticket or writing closing notes to that. Our vision is to deploy goal-based automation where manager can formulate the goal and receive the plan of how many agents and humans will work towards that and can track it. Of course, that's a vision, not today. How we're different from many solutions that you probably have seen. First of all, we don't have our own model. We use our framework, what we call voting behavior, LLM voting behavior, to plan the execution, not to do the QA how others do it, but we invest in planning of actions on the multi-agent level. We allow integrating third-party agents. At the same time, you can use Work Done to build your own. There is not so much penetration of agents in real enterprise. And our focus is on non-technical user, which makes a very short cohort of solutions in the market that do that. What's our edge? It's GTM speed. Even without product, even without demo, I was able to secure the first channel partnership and the first consulting partnership. And now with private beta, we have traction with 2 out of top 10 consulting firms. Everyone else will be on board very soon. Think about my previous role at EY. I worked for Chief Innovation Officer Jeff Wong. I know all the people who in charge in technology in Big 3 and Big 4 consulting firms. They generate POC opportunities for us today. Why now? It's greenfield. There are no preferred AI vendor for any kind of workforce or multi-agent automation offering among Big 3 and Big 4. It's greenfield. So we started working on this in March. We hired the first engineers, and we built the sales pipeline of POCs and partner pipeline, which is very fascinating. We'll be happy to follow up and tell you more about that. We will be POC ready by August. And we started raising money. I bootstrapped it to the first product version. Now we're raising 1 million pre-seed. We already closed for 100K. They're in our bank account from Pioneer Fund, Fior, and our fellow founders from Y Combinator, who closely follow the electronic story. We are taking this money to get to the public launch, to get to 360K ARR territory from just one converted POC to raise good seed round and get SOC 2. So would be very happy to follow up. Thank you.
Amazing job, Dimitri. I literally have goosebumps just looking at the speed of execution. Like, wow. We'll bring our panelists up to ask some questions. We will kick things off with Allison to ask the first question.
Thanks, Haley. Dimitri, I love how you went through your deck. And I think like the way you communicate matches like your speed of execution as well. I was curious to know more about the consulting firm channel that you're looking into. I also used to work in consulting a long time ago, BCG. And in my experience, like consulting firms often, especially nowadays, often like to build solutions internally. Like they have their own software development. They like to pride themselves, especially now, on like their knowledge of LLMs. They want to be like the people who are at the forefront and sometimes are fickle about introducing other software vendors. They also often don't have true preferred vendors. So why did you choose that channel and why do you think I'm wrong?
So I made my career selling UiPath with Ernst & Young and implementing that internally. Until that moment, you're right, these firms, they hired chief innovation officers and founders like me to build. By 2015, the conviction came that earlier a partner with promising enterprise software vendor, more money you will make. And that's what's so good about making horizontal platform. Once as consultant, you get into a small client, you just start to scale to other functions. That makes them horizontal platforms much more attractive than vertical solutions. And while I think vertical AI solutions for automation are great, they focus on very narrow problems to address. At the same time, if you want to work with consulting firms, you need to build horizontal. You need to focus on non-technical user as someone who can build automation. And we also found in our early experiments that the knowledge layer, the frameworks, for instance, for performance assessments that you put inside the tool are equally important as technology beyond it. So we're essentially allowing consultant firms to monetize their IP in a very different way, get a lot of billable hours, and hopefully transition to AI as a service model, which I see in definitely a trend in the market, but it will materialize in 2 years.
Thanks for that. Is the financial incentive for consulting firms largely the billable hours, or are they also getting some kind of markup on your software?
So they want to be in recurring revenue. That's the ultimate goal, and that's the service model. But they prefer to start with billable hours because it's so easy.
But at some point, like you're going to be giving them a cut of the deal?
Yes. So we always offer them 20% revenue share on standard thing, but that's not how consulting firms can make recurring revenue. They make recurring revenue by entering their own contracts and using new technology as a backend. That's called service model. It's less common for Big 3 and BCG, for instance, but in Big 4, it's 25% in revenue. In Accenture, it's 50% of revenue they do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Darian. You're muted, sorry.
Sorry. So how do you take this to market? Like, how do you sell this?
So because we work with consultant firms, they usually have a variety of executives in their mind, in their existing relationship that do have certain types of problems. For instance, not naming a client, but our first consultant partner, more than 1 billion in revenue from consulting, brought us to a telecom company that has elderly client base. And they believe that replacing human agents with AI agents is not the way for them to do. So they need to improve the performance of function in a different way. And that's what our POC can do for them, to essentially say, okay, let's review each call and let each manager help them with making the calls better, making the people better without replacing agents. And that's usually how consulting firms think about any vendor first. Then they become more systematic in terms of introducing us to account partners. Partners usually manage 10 to 15 accounts. And then these partners, when they see the first like demo, they start to bring us to the new accounts. It's
And
very
so,
hard.
so you're heavily reliant on the consulting firms as a channel.
We do. At the same time, I built direct sales pipeline just in case to make sure we would be able to work very closely on POCs. So that's not a big problem.
And so can you explain that piece then, like the direct sales model?
Yeah, so it's just me reaching out to executives in these companies using my prior connections.
And scoping use cases of like how you would implement AI in their context.
Yeah, we're essentially asking like, where do you have major automation problem? Where are your hardest? And when they tell us where, we go talk to managers, to like head of something, VP of something. That's someone who brings the exact automation case up and helps to scope POC.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Darian. Nick.
Thanks, Dimitri. Good job on the presentation, and also cool to see your prior experience. I think you mentioned support as one of the first systems that you integrate with. I think you had like Zendesk on the screen there. How does that typically go when you'll come in there? I guess this is more of the direct sales model where you'll connect to a system and then you'll analyze all the employees. Like how does that get seen as something that is a benefit for the employees while also reporting, based on performance of folks in the company?
Reporting is not the major question there. They're more interested in, can you produce some output that is tangible enough to act on that? And that's essentially performance improvement recommendation. We found that that's very interesting intersection, performance improvement of real human in any function. Because in the past, you always relied on managers, on their direct managers to produce such information. Now we can have access to all the pieces of data. I think we can go to sales and do the same. I just think sales is more competitive now than performance improvement and support. Seems to be a better case to get in and then to scale.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick, for the question. If anyone's unmuted, just a reminder to mute. Vivek, please.
Hey, Dimitri.
Hey, Vivek. Long time no see.
Long time no see. So you talk to your family, your mom, your dad, relatives about what you're doing. How do you describe to them, people who are not technical, who aren't in the industry? Like, how do you describe what you're doing?
I'm telling them that my vision for the future of work is people working on stuff related to emotional intelligence and creating human connections, and then building software to let them automate everything else. That's how I explain it to my parents.
But when they say, well, what is it that you're building? Like, what is the product? What do you tell them?
That's an interface for the manager to be able to access any insights on the performance of humans and to improve this performance by shipping them automation, by plain explaining what needs to be automated.
And so with working with consulting firms, you have different stakeholders. You have the chairman, you have the managing partners, you have the project manager, you have HR, you have head of IT/AI. Like, how do you interface with all of these different stakeholders when you're trying to establish a design partnership?
So in consulting firms, they're all partnerships. So they do have formal chairman or formal leader of AI, but really people who can make things done are client server partners. Essentially, the rest of the people, they're service for them. By the way, Vivek, I've learned recently that surprisingly, global chairman doesn't have margin as KPI, but local chairmen do, US firm, like European firm, and so on. So first of all, we need to get a convention from a partner to bring new vendor to the account. In the future, that could come from the management of the firm, but now it just happens on that connection to the partner. We talk to a partner, he talks to the technology team later to understand if it's something that we can even digestibly sell to someone and deliver. Then we do a demo for them, and then we do a demo for clients. That's how it happened 4 times already.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Great job again, Dimitri. If you want to connect with Dimitri, if you're interested in investing, don't forget to use the buttons below. We are going to move on to our next startup. Let's go ahead and bring the founder of Build Now to the stage. We're so excited to have Aditya up here. And thank you again, Dimitri. Aditya, after going to school at the University of Southern California and UC San Diego, studied finance and machine learning engineering. Wow. Then went on to work in PE, investment banking. I'm seeing a theme here among our founders. We love to see it. And eventually startups too. His company BuildNow makes AI video generation easy. So excited to hear from you, Aditya. We'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Hilly. Hi, everyone. My name is Aditya Bal. I'm the founder of BuildNow AI. We're building the only video generation and understanding platform for enterprise learning and development teams. We make it easy for employees to get instant video answers to their questions in real time. Building this because it's a problem I personally faced at Deloitte, which was my first job out of college. They took us to training for 2 weeks in Texas. And during that time, a lot of information was thrown at us. And when I started my job, I still felt a bit overwhelmed and I didn't want to ask stupid questions, quote unquote, to my associate. And that's the problem we're targeting. We want to ensure employees no longer feel lost at work. And I wish I had a tool where I could type in a question like what changes need to be made in the goodwill impairment template and received an instant video answer in real time. And I know I'm not the only person who has felt lost at work based on conversations, with my friends at Fortune 500 companies and customer interviews. The knowledge management market is expected to grow from $655 billion to $2.1 trillion by 2030. And it's important to note that 90% of enterprise data is unstructured and it's full of untapped value. And thanks to LLMs, we can make sense of that now. Text, has been one medium to absorb that information, but we know that people have a huge preference for visual media over text. And we plan on bringing that corporate knowledge to life with AI avatars. Here, let me show you how our solution works. There are two parts to our solution. The first is content creation. And what you're looking at on the left side here is our studio. And if I was still working at Deloitte and I wanted to create a presentation for what changes needed to be made in the goodwill impairment template, I would begin by selecting an avatar from our diverse library. Then I would focus on structuring my presentation on generating a script and thinking through what information I want to convey, whether it's like, do I want to have images of the Microsoft document? Do I want to do a screen recording, voiceover, or just create slides to tell them, the new analysts, about the changes that they need to make? Then I would select a voice from our voice library over here. We also have one-click translation, so your presentation can be translated into many different languages. And one of the coolest features is we have a voice assistant on the bottom right that'll give you real-time feedback on your presentation as you're creating it. And once you click submit, your presentation will be added to the knowledge base, and then you can easily update and personalize the presentations for each employee. And the second part of our solution is where the magic happens, video search. Whenever an employee asks a question, they'll get an instant video answer thanks to video embeddings. Let me play this video for you.
Hey there, welcome to BuildNow AI, where you can easily go from text to video in minutes. No more being lost at work. We make it easy for your employees to get video answers to their questions in real time. BuildNow.
And this is just, one example. Essentially, this will allow enterprises to bring all that corporate knowledge to life with interactive AI avatars. And we're already collecting data and fine-tuning models for particular domains like finance and law to improve RAG as well. And how we're going to be making money is we're a B2B SaaS business, and we'll be charging per seat. So per creator and then per employee for view access only. And then we'll charge for add-ons as well for, cloning avatars, cloning voices as well. And we've been very fortunate. We currently have more demand than we can meet. We're excited about our launch on September 1st, early next week. And then this is our customer pipeline. We're speaking with 2 large accounting firms. And given we're able to get a pilot for approximately 800 seats, we would be making 120K MRR, and the math is just per seat 150 for just back of the envelope math. And I know the sales cycles and approvals can take a little bit of time, but we're starting the process. And the rest of these are a higher probability of closing in the short term, especially with the law firms. We're working with 2 law firms in LA in the personal injury space to train lawyers and paralegals on particular workflows, and that would be 6K MRR each. Happy to discuss specifics more of our customer pipeline on another call. And prior to finding BuildNow AI, I was the first employee and director of ML products at Preamble, an AI safety company founded by the creator of Snapchat Spectacles, who's also an angel in our round. We're one of the first teams in the world to discover prompt injections and notify OpenAI. I have extensive experience steering LM outputs, reduce hallucinations, taking startups from 0 to 1, fine-tuning ML models, putting them in production, financial modeling, sales, project management. I have what it takes to lead Build Now to success. And then he, who is our engineering lead, has a PhD in AI from Harvard and has a background as a quant as well. He has extensive expertise in computer vision and optimizing ML pipelines for efficiency and speed. Our combined skills and experience make us the perfect team to bring Build Now to the forefront of the industry. We're currently raising $2 million that will help us reach our financial milestones, grow our team, satisfy our design partners, make product improvements for real-time interactive avatars, which we intend on launching before the end of the year. Join us on our mission to democratize knowledge with interactive AI avatars. Thank you.
Amazing job, Aditya. Don't forget to click the buttons to connect with Aditya or to express interest in investing. I think while you are going through this, you got a shout out from a potential customer at Toyota, the masters of process power. So if they're leaning in, there's just so much potential here. Congrats on all your traction. Let's bring our panelists up to ask some questions and learn more about what you're building. We will kick things off with Darian.
Yeah, thanks for the pitch. Curious how you're different from Synthesia or other really well-funded companies, Colossian, like others that are out there in this space, and awesome. How you plan on competing against having hundreds of millions of dollars raised. Yeah,
we've been getting that a lot. So I think the piece that's kind of missing is the video understanding that I think a lot of people are just like not understanding per se. Because even one of the biggest large accounting firms, for example, their they're like top 20 accounting firm. Their chief innovation officer use Synthesia, but it's like you create the presentation. But the question then is like, now what? It's like you want to make use and you like easily search through all of that knowledge. And then so we're kind of like, that last little piece of like that knowledge is actually useful now.
Got it. And when you think about the go-to-market, like how are you planning on, driving more inbound to the funnel? Where are you going to find customers?
Finding customers, so have a pretty large network here in LA and SF in the professional services domain. So going through that route, and then I think initially kind of just starting, have like a couple Fortune 500 companies. There's another like Pacific Gas company in San Diego, and kind of leveraging my networks, and then kind of going through like, building out a sales engine, speaking with my friends who've gone through YC, and Apollo, Clay, how do you kind of just like do, cold outreach at scale.
Cool, thanks.
Awesome. Let's hand it over to Nick.
Yeah, thanks again. I thought the pipeline slide's always an interesting thing as an investor. The pipeline always looks great, and you are touching a lot of different industries. I'm wondering if there's like any particular use case or vertical where you think it's less competitive per Darian's point, or you feel like it's more of a compelling use case that, might actually drive more of the focus, especially when you think about, inbound or your network. And then the second question is, I think the search part of what you were mentioning is relatively interesting, but it seems like there's a cold start problem there when you think about an enterprise not having any video content to start. So I'd love to hear how you think about verticals, and then kind of how do you get to search being actually a core value prop?
Yeah, definitely. I've been thinking about this deeply as well. And I know kind of just like from all like, Paul Graham's essays and things of sorts, like initially kind of just like, have to stick to like one domain from the successful startups. So we're focusing on professional services. And then I've also gone to like the call center conference 2 years in a row in Vegas as well. And there's lots of demand for that particular industry because there's a lot of turnover. But that's like a low paying customer. So it's just kind of like, from like an investor's perspective, you want to look at like the annual median like contract value, and in professional services, if we can target those, we'll be able to kind of just make more money there. And what I would say is like this video generation understanding aspect it's like a Trojan horse, like, but what we're really building is a system of intelligence. So it's like it's like the new medium in terms of like enterprises where you have an avatar that can kind of, it's just like really good RAG. So it's like the way in which you get that information will be through an avatar.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's move on to Vivek.
To layer on top of, by the way, that was a really cool pitch. I like seeing the product and the demo in the pitch itself. So to layer on top of what Nick was asking, how do you define the ideal customer profile? Because professional services is like a pretty massive industry, and like in looking at the pipeline slide, you had accounting firms, at the very top,
Mhm.
like what was it, 800 seats?
800,
Right?
yeah.
Was that with just one accounting firm or multiple?
That was just one of them.
One. Okay. That seems like really interesting demand and pull there. So like, how do you think about defining the core ICP there?
Yeah, so I, just kind of like working at Preamble, being the first employee there too. It's like, I think it's very important to have like revenue coming in day one. You just have to launch and you have to get, like revenue coming in. So with the accounting firms, it's going to bring in substantially more revenue, but like the sales cycle there might be a little bit longer. But with law firms, I just happen to have like, friends with a lot of lawyers in LA, just randomly. And then it's like already a couple, like just they're my really good friends. So it's just like, and each of the law firms has like 40 to 50. So I can easily sell those, and just start bringing in revenue. But if we can really, just would sell to like the big four companies, for example, that's kind of, where like really the money will be made.
Got it. Okay. And so how do you adapt to the end user's learning style? So is this catering to the TikTok generation who's so used to consuming content through that format? Like myself, I'm a millennial. I think I was born in 98.3. I can consume information much quicker by just reading it versus like listening/watching something. So how do you cater to the different end user types?
Yeah, so we've thought through that as well. So I'd love to give you a live demo on another call, but it's like when you type in whatever question, you'll get like a video response and then you'll get a little bit of text as well, because sometimes it's easier to like skim through text. So whatever question you have like both options. If you want to watch like the 2 to 3 minute video, you could watch it, or you could just go through the text. But then also the really cool aspect of like video embeddings is like if there's a query like show me that beer ad that Post Malone was in the Super Bowl, it's not keyword search. It brings that exact instance where Post Malone is. And there's obviously a lot of work to be done in terms of just like recognizing faces. But for us, we're kind of like fortunate because we already have the text, that for these presentations that are kind of created initially.
Amazing. Let's take one more question from Allison.
Thanks, Haley. Aditya, that was great. Can you talk a little bit about the exact nature of the demand that you're getting? Like what kind of ROI do your customers have in mind? Like who exactly within the organization is sort of championing the purchase, and like what do they personally stand to gain from buying you? Talk to us a little bit about like what feedback you're getting and what your buying process is.
Yeah. So for one of the law firms, they're growing very quickly here in LA. They want to hire like 30 more people. They currently have about 40 people, and then 10 are lawyers and 30 are like paralegals or individuals who do like particular workflows. And then the new 30 people they're going to hire, they want to train them on just like a few particular workflows, like EAMS, for example. That's like the government website in California that you have to upload like documents to. But it's just like my friend Emily, she basically like doesn't have time to like, teach 30 people. And it's like she can record that presentation just like once, kind of being like, hey, and do like a voiceover, like this is how you do X, Y, and Z. And, that kind of like ends that whole circle. And then kind of similarly, was also speaking with the CEO of a gaming company, and his sales team has a lot of turnover. And they keep asking the same questions. And he's like, this is phenomenal. I want to do a POC because it's like my salespeople, it's like, how do you do like upsell things? Or just basic questions that, they don't bug him. So it's like, go like speak with like this, assistant, and then so you can get your answer.
Got it. And sorry if this is like an obvious answer, but why exactly is using your product better than someone recording a Loom?
It's the video search aspect. So you get an instant video response, and it's like better search, like search within video.
Awesome. Thank you all for the questions. Aditya, great job. We are going to finish up here with one more pitch from Ashia, the founder of Symbi AI. Ashia studied computational physics, biology, and computer science undergrad at the University of Alabama before starting her career in data engineering with the Smithsonian Environmental Research Center. Ashia, we're so excited to have you. I will let you share your screen, take us home, maybe show us the dog at some point. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. I'm happy that she's taken over. Hi, I'm Asha Livaday, and I am the founder, or one of the founders and the CEO at Symbi AI, where we're building a platform to automate the scientific review process. So because of the major increase in the amount of published research that's being produced, a lot of this work simply cannot be thoroughly validated nor reviewed. What we then find is that new research is being built on top of this really shoddy foundation of older work that's marred with errors, and sometimes outright fraud. What we also find is that billions of dollars of annual research funding is routinely wasted on this work that, if we're lucky, gets retracted early, but usually we find out down the line is completely unusable. One major instance of this was the 2022 uncovering that the then reigning theory of Alzheimer's development was actually based on nearly entirely fabricated data posed over 20 years ago. So this not only cost the National Institutes of Health over $280 million, but also set back Alzheimer's research by over 2 decades. So enter SymbiAI, where we are leveraging AI to optimize that process of reviewing scientific documents. The primary goal for the platform is really making high-quality research a convenience, and we do that with 2 features. The first is AI-assisted peer review, where we allow users to check the validity and quality of scientific claims and documents at large, but also AI-driven method replication, where if this document contains any math, stats, pseudocode, or even things like machine learning diagrams, our platform produces code to allow users to automatically validate those experiments. And we also offer features like real-time review analysis to bring some transparency to the peer review process. And all of this is on a collaborative platform because science is a team sport. So our current direct competitor is also the status quo, which is the entirely manual, human-driven peer review process, where an author submits a paper or proposal along with their data source, and then goes through a grueling 3 months to sometimes up to a year back and forth of responding to these reviewer comments that are sometimes really cursory in scope and very rarely address non-paper assets like your data or your code. SymbiAI transforms that process by still allowing the author to submit their paper or proposal along with their data source, and instead of in months, in minutes, receive both comprehensive insights that look deeper into the science, but also address the data, code, images, and plots, along with the replication code that our platform produces to check those mathematical, statistical, or algorithmic analysis experiments. In under a year, we've amassed a waitlist of over 800 researchers and $600,000 in initial investment. Not only that, but we've also established paid partnerships with 4 huge names in publishing that I'm so happy to work with, worth a total value of $425,000 ARR. Our go-to-market strategy thus far has been to use our initial relationship with publishers to give us a legitimacy boost to ease our transition into working in other enterprise spaces. And there are many of these organizations, nearly 82,000 journals, labs, R&D orgs, universities, and over 100 million individual research practitioners, from motivated undergraduates all the way up to research fellows at laboratories. That puts our TAM at nearly $38 billion, and although I would love to capture the entirety of the market, we still have an ambitious but attainable year 3 goal of right over 8 million ARR. We plan to get there by not only offering individual subscriptions and subscriptions for small groups like conference committees, but also additional negotiable enterprise plans for those large organizations like your publisher or your research department. As I mentioned previously, our only real direct competitor is the manual peer review process. When it comes to other tools in the research space, they mostly focus on content discovery, but none of them have the sophisticated review and replication that you can find on our platform. My CTO, Michael House, is a cybersecurity engineer with over a decade of experience, so he's a software development guru. And hello again, I'm Asha. I was most recently a computational physicist and AI research scientist at Fermilab, and I love studying deep learning in relation to science. We are currently raising $2 million, which would allow us to massively expedite our enterprise onboarding process and put us on a faster track to 1 million ARR, at least by the end of 2025. It would also cover the full deployment cost for our artificial intelligence systems. And last but not least, our vision for the company is really to be the first and the best, which we currently are. As I mentioned, there is not another SymbiAI on the market right now, and in our evaluation test, not only did our model outperform both GPT-4 by far, and also human reviewers at select tasks. We wholeheartedly believe that by being the first and being the best, we will eventually become the standard in research integrity. So thank you. Ready for questions.
Amazing, Asha. Thank you so much. Great work. If you want to connect with Asha, don't forget to click the buttons below to connect, invest, learn more. We will kick off our Q&A led by our esteemed panelists, starting with Nick.
Great job. Love the presentation, and also your energy for the problem space is great. As a boring business to business operator, I hope that you're able to fundraise quickly and you blow past the $1 million ARR milestone, because I think things like this are definitely needed. My question is kind of two parts. One is, I think your feature set kind of describing like a human in the loop type way for people to review. I think it's spot on. Would love to hear a bit more about how that works, and specifically related to the collaboration pieces of it. So internal, external, how do you think about like ways to kind of drive that review process? And then love hearing that you have a waitlist set up and that you already have some initial ARR. Would love to kind of hear thoughts on how you're thinking about using that waitlist to kind of expand where you are with the product today, and also potentially drive towards that revenue milestone that you mentioned in the deck.
Yeah, for sure. If you see me looking away, I like to write down parts of the questions so I can remember them. I'll go first with the human in the loop portion. So before we did anything in relation to actually doling out the product to these markets or these industries that I really care about, we did a lot of research and development on the psychological impact of the use of AI on the peer review process. And what we found is that across the board, AI, specifically Symbi AI plus human, always gave you the best output. When that came to actually matching human reviewers to papers, actually getting review output, we definitely have evidence that proves that humans plus augmentation is probably the way to go. So for us, it was always a selling point of, we don't want to replace reviewers, we want to augment them, and we want to drive optimization. So it was a no-brainer for us in that manner. And how we actually do that as far as tangibles is just making the interface accessible. A lot of the tools right now that academics have to use, both in their personal time, but also when reviewing or doing any editing, the large stumbling block is that they're just unwieldy. The interfaces are inaccessible, they're Byzantine, they're outdated. We just decided not to do that. And so for us, it's been an easy sell of getting this idea of, you can use this system, still have humans use it, and even use it in a way that's simple. So that's kind of the answer to part one. Part two, as far as using our waitlist to expand, our waitlist isn't just academics, right? It's people that work in commercial science closely to research directors. It's people that maybe work with federal contractors where they live on these small business innovation and research grants. So we've definitely, before we stopped at the publishers, before we stopped at some of the hardware companies that we now work with, leveraged some individuals, very specific individuals on our waitlist to sort of also ease our transition into these other spaces that we're less familiar with. For instance, I'm a physicist. I know physicists, I know mathematicians, I know people that work in commercial science in relation to machine learning, etc. I have nothing to do with pharmaceuticals. I know nothing when it comes to wet lab biology. I am not a social psychologist. And so the folks on our waitlist, along with our separate but also really large scientific advisory council, who helps us with like ongoing evaluation and even our initial data set, have been really integral to getting us to some of those connections that have turned into pipeline companies. So we definitely leverage them every day when it comes to making connections.
Thanks, Nick. Vivek.
That was a great pitch. Beautiful deck, clear articulation of the problem. We should chat after this call. I'd love to kind of talk more about what you're doing. In the interest of time, I won't go into questions I had around the follow-up questions I had around the human in the loop, but I do have a question around, look, I think this is novel. This is really interesting. This is needed in the market. I think there are going to be a lot of Symbi type companies. How do you create defensibility here?
A Symbi type company is not easy. So one of the things, we kind of have three separate modes: one social, one data, and one infrastructure. The social mode that we have is to create that data and infrastructure. We had input from hundreds of researchers across fields. And that was me not necessarily just focusing on the technical, but doing boots on the ground marketing and talking to people to get them invested in the product. And so we were able to get that wait list with really product-led growth, because we had the interest of people not only in using the product, but also contributing to helping us make it what it is. And so to replicate that kind of motion, not to toot my own horn, but I'm gonna toot a little bit, is difficult, especially among researchers who are known to be a little bit ornery. So good luck with that. I would also say good luck with the data set. The thing that puts our performance so far ahead of a GPT-4, a Claude, or any other proprietary model, whether that's closed and open, is that we made very conscious decisions about the technical infrastructure, and our data set is mostly manually annotated and has instructions that come specifically from researchers across fields. Again, leveraging that scientific counsel that we kind of focus on developing in our first year. And so to try to replicate the technical infrastructure is difficult, replicating the data set is difficult. And then also, like I said, good luck with trying to get scientists on your side very quickly. It requires a lot. So there are some moats there that kind of put our performance way past what could be.
Great, thank you.
Thanks both. Allison.
Thanks, Asha. You really nailed that. I'm curious to know what risk do you see as the most important in your business?
For sure. So there are a few risks. Two of the risks that I think about right now that are the most important is that we have a lot of inbound from very traditional academic organizations, such as laboratories, universities, especially the scientific publishers, federal contractors, etc. So that's great. One of the things that does worry me about that, though, is how do we learn how to prioritize all the different needs of these different customers that we're serving? So right now, the way that we kind of try to contingency plan for that is to get as much feedback as possible and decide whose major list of features that they need kind of encompasses everybody else's. Right now, we focus specifically on publishers because every feature that publishers need, everybody else's needs are kind of in that specific set. And so that's something that I kind of worry at some point will diverge a little bit more, where in order to be the company that the federal contractors go to, in order to be the company that the commercial R&D department goes to, we need to have this very specific set of features that maybe we just can't feel reasonably. So that is a risk that does exist. We just haven't really run into it yet in the real world, I should say.
Awesome. Haley, can I ask one more follow-up question?
Go for it.
Asha, tell me about what motivates you to start a company, whether it's your personal background or this particular problem, like what will get you through all those tough times?
For sure. So I always tell people I'm the funniest person to be an entrepreneur in the world. You could not have chose a funnier person to build a startup. So I was going to build Symbi one way or another. I was wholeheartedly planning on quitting at Fermilab and just building something cool while living in a van down by the river. So I have no problem with struggle. I have no problem with ripping my hair out here and there if I'm building something cool. And I think that that's a very important trait for trying to build a startup or trying to get the kind of growth that is needed for calling yourself a successful startup. So that was kind of it. Not necessarily being afraid of struggle, not being afraid of things that are hard. That's kind of been my whole life. That's my jam, love suffering, and wanting to build this thing and being so myopically obsessed with the idea that this needs to be a thing that exists. So
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that question, Allison. Darian.
Yeah, how do you think about like real TAM in this market? I think that's the thing that I've always struggled with. Like I remember ResearchGate, I've seen Consensus, I've seen a few others that are sort of in at least the search part, not the peer review automation part that you're going after as well. But like, how do you really think about TAM and recurring revenue within the TAM? Yeah, and how does that 38 billion calculated also in the deck?
Yeah, for sure. So the 38 billion essentially comes from us saying, okay, how many publishers exist? What bin of revenue do each of those publishers fall into? So by bin, I mean, people don't really know how much they make. They make quite a bit. A handful of them are multi-billion-dollar companies. On average, they have higher profit margins than big tech giants. And so that TAM specifically comes from us bidding those companies by their revenue and how much a contract might be with them, but also including all extant universities, all extant specific, very hard R&D laboratories. So really any organization that falls specifically under research that we could think of, along with the number of individual researchers that do work and then subtracting to make sure that there's as little as possible overlap between people in the orgs and people that are just individuals. So that's kind of where our TAM comes from. How I'm actually thinking about it is more so a focus on scientific publishers as our initial vertical, because I think that we could reach critical mass there much more quickly than some of the other traditional outcomes. I also think working with scientific publishers will help us reach into the commercial R&D space a lot more quickly than some of our indirect competitors, because I think that that's probably where the larger checks lie. And so again, as I mentioned with the slides, but I definitely want to make clear again, we look at publishers as a very helpful stepping stone. It looks good to be the research integrity and IP management company that works with where research is conducted and submitted. And we've already kind of seen some of that with some of our initial pipeline companies and one of our contracts who is commercial R&D. So that's kind of where we're going with that. The real TAM would be working in the commercial R&D space for sure.
Got it. And so is the model like similar to benchling, like go and get the researchers at the universities to hopefully bring this with them to the corporations in their research departments? Is that how you're going to start and grow that way? Or are you going to go direct to the enterprises like soon?
I would say probably more so direct to enterprise soon. So we do have the closed beta right now. Both individual researchers and research organizations can use it. So there's, for us, we've already seen a great deal of transition from this individual researcher likes it to they're bragging to it about the commercial R&D, organization that they work with we have inbound from that organization. So that's definitely a pathway that will work for us and already has been. But for us, it's a lot easier to kind of ease our transition again to the scientific publishers as a very obvious first step, and then use those connections to go into commercial R&D. Because most of the people that are senior editors on these committees at insert big name publisher here are also director at insert big name commercial R&D space here. So there's a lot of overlap between the two, and it to us seems like a very obvious step 1, step 2, step 3.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Great job, Asha. If you want to get in touch with Asha, interested in investing, don't forget to click the buttons below. Thank you, panelists, for all of the great questions. That was our big 4. We want to hear from the judges, hear what they have to say. We'll bring up a poll to vote on the best pitch in just a second here. But maybe, Vivek, you could kick us off with any feedback, themes, thoughts from today's event.
I like pitches where you can actually see the product. I'm a big fan of that. But I mean, Simbi's my favorite.
We love it. We love it. Darian, is Vivek okay?
Dead. I'm back alive now.
Okay, thank goodness.
Yeah, I enjoyed the pitches. I thought they were definitely all really honed in on a market segment. It would have been interesting to see products. Yeah, that's what I mean, I'd like to see a lot more product demos than decks, because I look at decks all day, and I seeing a real product is always fun.
It's the best. And we have a panel of builders, so it makes total sense. Good note for the next event. Allison, what do you think?
I thought overall everyone did a great job. I really appreciate pitches where folks are concise, structured in their thinking, and speak very quickly. And I thought a few folks, I thought Dimitri did well at that. I thought Asha rocked that. Rasha had an answer to every question. You can tell she's thought through like every single aspect of this, like really knows her stuff, and just sounds like so enthusiastic. So I think I'd have to agree that Asha won, but I think there was, a lot of great talent demonstrated throughout this.
Amazing. Thanks for your thoughts. And Nick.
I would say the founders presenting did a great job. I thought everyone's background was really interesting leading up to what got them started with the company. And just, it's hard to pitch investors when you're really early and, a lot of things are still in your head and not yet in the product and not yet revenue that's in the bank. So really good energy, and thought the problem spaces were interesting. So great job to all the founders for jumping into the fire of starting a company, and hopefully some of these companies will turn into meaningful businesses. So really exciting to see.
Yeah, looking forward to tracking all the founders from today. Thank you to the Kernel team for doing the work of meeting and finding all these amazing founders. We're going to bring Matt back up to the stage for some final thoughts as we tally the votes. Thanks everyone for coming and for supporting the startups we have here. Keep an eye out for a recording, share with friends, invite them to the next event. If you liked a founder or want to follow an investor from today, please do. We love people keeping in touch.
Awesome. Thanks, Haley. Yeah, I think we've got a winner from our poll, and it's going to be Simbi running away with it. I tried to bring our Kernel mascot, my dog Cooper, on to announce, but he was acting a little shy. I just want to say thank you to all the panelists for donating their time today. I think it's always awesome knowing what it's been like trying to raise venture capital, that all the VCs that I tried to raise from didn't just throw hardballs at me. So I thought I loved the questions from the panel today. I thought, all the startups did a great job. And yeah, I'm sorry we ran over by 15 minutes, but that means we were having too much fun. So I want to shout out Kieran Kalia, who helped our founders hone in their pitches. She's one of our sponsors, and then Chop Shop for doing all the amazing content that they always do for us. We've got a gaming event next month. So if you have any portfolio codes in the gaming space, please send them over. Or if you know anyone that would love to judge, please don't hesitate to reach out. As always, thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next month.
Thank you all.
Bye.